In the heart of the savannah, nestled between rolling hills and flowing rivers, lay the village of Makazi. This village was unlike any other, for it was home to a sacred treasure known as the Stone of Destiny, a mystical white stone that gleamed like the moon even on the darkest nights. For countless generations, the stone had been passed down through the village elders, each sworn to protect its power and ensure it was used only for good. Legend told that whatever one asked of the stone would come to pass, but only if the request came from a pure heart. The stone did not respond to greed, malice, or selfishness. It could sense the true intentions behind every word spoken in its presence. The Stone of Destiny rested in a sacred grove at the center of the village, enclosed by a circle of ancient baobab trees whose twisted trunks and sprawling branches formed a natural sanctuary. Only those deemed worthy by the village council could approach it directly, though all villagers benefited from its blessings. Under the stone's watchful presence, Makazi flourished. The rains came when needed, crops grew in abundance, and illness rarely visited their homes. The villagers lived in harmony, sharing their prosperity and welcoming visitors who came to pay homage to the stone. "We are blessed," Elder Jabari would say during village gatherings, his voice carrying across the circle of attentive faces. "Not because we possess the stone, but because we understand its lesson that a generous heart multiplies its own blessings." Word of the stone's power spread far and wide across the land. Travelers journeyed from distant villages and towns, bringing offerings and hopes for blessings. Some sought wealth, others healing, and still others wisdom or guidance. The village welcomed these pilgrims, offering shelter and sustenance, and in return, Makazi grew prosperous from the gifts and trade that accompanied these visits. Chiefess Amara, a woman of great wisdom whose gray hair was said to have been touched by the ancestors themselves, guided the stone's use with fairness and compassion. "The stone gives most generously to those who ask least selfishly," she would often say, cautioning villagers against becoming dependent on its power rather than their own strength. In a distant village called Nyota lived a woman named Zuri. Her name meant beautiful in the old tongue, and indeed she possessed a beauty that came from within a gentle spirit and kind heart. For many years, Zuri and her husband Kofi had longed for a child, but season after season passed with no blessing of offspring. They had consulted healers, performed rituals, and prayed to ancestors, all to no avail. "Perhaps we are meant to be childless," Kofi said one evening, trying to comfort his wife as she gazed longingly at children playing in the village square. "Perhaps," Zuri replied, though her heart refused to accept it. "But I feel there is a child or children waiting to be born through us. I feel it as surely as I feel the earth beneath my feet." As the harvest season ended, a traveling merchant came to Nyota, bringing goods from distant lands and stories from far-off places. As villagers gathered around the communal fire to hear his tales, the merchant spoke of many wonders, but none captured Zuri's attention like the mention of the Stone of Destiny. "In Makazi," the merchant said, his eyes reflecting the dancing flames, "there lies a stone of great power. It grants what the heart truly desires, but only if your intentions are pure and your spirit humble." Zuri felt something stir within her, a hope she had almost forgotten. That night, she could not sleep, thinking of the stone and wondering if it might answer the prayer she had carried for so long. When morning came, she approached Kofi. "I must go to Makazi," she said firmly. "I must see this Stone of Destiny for myself." Kofi looked concerned. "It is a journey of many days, and not without dangers. Let me accompany you." But Zuri shook her head. "This is between my heart and the stone," she told him gently. "I must make this journey alone." Though reluctant, Kofi respected his wife's determination. He helped her prepare, packing dried fruits, nuts, and roasted grains for the journey. The village healer gave her protective charms and knowledge of healing plants she might find along the way. For 7 days and 7 nights, Zuri traveled through forests and across plains, following the directions the merchant had given her. She encountered kind strangers who offered shelter, avoided a pack of hyenas by climbing a tree and waiting until dawn, and crossed a river with the help of a fisherman who asked for nothing in return. When she finally reached Makazi, she was weary but determined. The village was larger than she had imagined, with circular huts arranged in concentric rings around what she assumed must be the sacred grove where the stone was kept. The villagers noticed her immediately, a stranger, travel-worn but carrying herself with quiet dignity. An older woman approached her. "I am Nia," the woman said. "You have traveled far. What brings you to Makazi?" "I seek the Stone of Destiny," Zuri answered honestly. "I have carried a prayer in my heart for many years, and I hope the stone might hear it." Nia nodded, unsurprised. Many came to Makazi with similar hopes. "You must rest first," she said, leading Zuri to her home. "Then, when the moon is full tomorrow night, the council will consider your request to approach the stone." Zuri accepted the hospitality gratefully. As she ate and rested in Nia's home, she observed the life of Makazi. There was a contentment here, a sense of purpose and community that seemed to flow outward from the sacred grove at the center. Children played, elders taught, and everyone contributed to the village's well-being. The next evening, as the full moon rose, Zuri stood before the council of elders, including Chiefess Amara. The council gathered in a semicircle, their faces illuminated by torchlight. With quiet dignity, Zuri spoke of her years of longing, the emptiness in her home, and the love she had to give a child. "I do not ask for wealth or power," she concluded. "Only for the chance to nurture life, to pass on what I have learned, and to contribute another good heart to our world." Amara studied Zuri carefully, looking beyond her words into her heart. What she saw there was not desperation or selfish desire, but a wellspring of love waiting to be given. After conferring quietly with the other elders, Amara spoke. "Zuri of Nyota, we find your intent pure and your heart true. You may approach the Stone of Destiny at dawn, when the first light touches the stone. Speak your heart's truth to it then." Zuri spent the night in prayer and meditation, preparing herself for the moment. She did not sleep, fearing she might miss the appointed time. As the first golden rays of morning light filtered through the baobab trees, Nia led Zuri to the sacred grove. There, in a clearing surrounded by 7 ancient trees, sat the white stone. It was larger than Zuri had imagined, standing as tall as her waist, with a smooth, slightly curved surface that seemed to invite touch. Nia withdrew, leaving Zuri alone with the stone. For a moment, Zuri simply gazed at it, feeling its presence more than seeing it, a vibration of ancient power and wisdom. Finally, she knelt before it, placing her palms upon its cool, smooth surface. The stone seemed to warm beneath her touch. "Stone of Destiny," she whispered, "I come not to demand but to ask. Not to take but to receive what might be given. My arms ache to hold a child, to teach, to love, to raise as a good person who will bring light to the world. If my heart is worthy, grant me this blessing." As she spoke, tears welled in her eyes, and one fell onto the stone. For a moment so brief she thought she might have imagined it, the stone seemed to absorb her tear, glowing with a gentle radiance. Zuri felt a warmth flow from the stone into her body, settling deep within her womb. She remained kneeling there until the sun stood high overhead, feeling a connection to the stone that transcended words. When she finally rose, her legs stiff from kneeling so long, Chiefess Amara was waiting nearby. "The stone has heard you," Amara said simply. "Return to your home and live each day with the same love you have shown here." "How will I know if my prayer is answered?" Zuri asked. Amara smiled. "Some answers come quickly, others slowly. But true answers always come in their proper time." With the blessing of the village, Zuri began her journey home. The path seemed easier now, as if the land itself wished to speed her return. In 12 days, she arrived back in Nyota, where Kofi embraced her with joy and relief. "Did you find what you were seeking?" he asked. I spoke to the stone, Zuri replied. Now we must wait and see what comes of it. As the weeks passed, Zuri noticed changes in her body. Her monthly bleeding ceased. Her breasts grew tender. And a subtle roundness began to form where her belly had always been flat. When the midwife confirmed what Zuri already suspected, that she carried new life within her, the news spread quickly through the village. Some called it a miracle, others, who had heard of her journey, nodded knowingly and spoke of the Stone of Destiny's power. As her belly grew, Zuri noticed something unusual. The child moves so much, she told Kofi one night as they lay together. And in different places at once, as if. As if? Kofi prompted. As if there is more than one, Zuri whispered, half afraid to voice the thought. The midwife confirmed this too. You carry 2 children, she said with astonishment. Twins are a sign of special blessing. They bring double joy but also double responsibility. When the rains came, marking the beginning of the planting season, Zuri went into labor. For a day and a night, she worked to bring her children into the world, supported by the village women who took turns attending her. As dawn broke on the 2nd day, Zuri gave birth to a boy and, shortly after, a girl, both strong and healthy despite their early arrival. She named the boy Baraka, meaning blessing, and the girl Imani, meaning faith. News of the twins spread quickly through Nyota and to neighboring villages. Many came to see the children born of the Stone of Destiny's blessing, bringing gifts and seeking to touch the infants for good fortune. As the children grew, they showed remarkable gifts. Baraka had a healing touch, plants flourished under his care, and animals seemed drawn to his gentle presence. Once, when a child fell and broke his arm, Baraka placed his small hands on the injury and the bone seemed to straighten and mend more quickly than anyone had seen before. Imani possessed wisdom beyond her years. Even as a small child, she solved disputes among village children with fairness and insight that left adults amazed. She spoke late, but when she did, her words carried weight and clarity unusual in one so young. The prosperity of the twins extended beyond Zuri's family. As word spread of the Stone of Destiny's blessing, people began coming to Nyota to seek healing from Baraka or counsel from Imani. They brought trade, knowledge, and friendship. The once quiet village became a center of learning and commerce. The stone's blessing flows far beyond us, Zuri remarked to Kofi as they watched traders set up stalls in what had become Nyota's first market square. Perhaps that is the stone's true power, Kofi replied. Not just to grant wishes, but to create ripples of blessing that touch many lives. Years passed, and as the twins reached their 12th season, Zuri decided it was time to return to Makazi to give thanks. This time, she journeyed with Kofi and their children, trading with a merchant caravan for safety and companionship along the way. When they arrived at Makazi, they found the village even more prosperous than before, with new buildings and expanded fields. Chiefess Amara still led with wisdom, though now her hair was white as the stone itself. I remember you, Amara said when Zuri presented herself. The woman who asked only for love to give. Zuri introduced her family. The Stone of Destiny blessed me beyond my dreams, she said. I have come to offer my gratitude and to show my children the source of the gift that brought them to us. Amara nodded and led them to the sacred grove. There, Zuri was surprised to see that the white stone now had 2 smaller white stones beside it, as if it had somehow reproduced itself. The stone has never done this before, Amara explained with wonder. On the morning after you left, we found these 2 smaller stones beside the larger one. We knew then that your request had been granted in a special way. Baraka and Imani stepped forward, drawn to the smaller stones as if by an invisible force. When they each touched one, the stones glowed briefly, recognizing something of themselves in the children. The Stone of Destiny did not just grant you children, Amara said softly. It shared its essence with them. These 2 will grow to become guardians of wisdom and healing for many people. In the days that followed, Zuri and her family were honored guests in Makazi. The twins spent time learning from the village elders, absorbing knowledge that would help them develop their gifts more fully. Before they departed to return home, Amara made an unprecedented request. "One of the small stones should go with you to Nyota," she said. "And one should remain here. This will create a bond between our villages that will benefit both." And so it was done. The stone that went to Nyota was placed in a sacred grove modeled after the one in Makazi. From that day forward, a new understanding spread through both villages. The Stone of Destiny was not merely a source of personal wishes granted. It was a reminder of the power of pure intentions, of asking not for oneself alone but for the good that could flow through one person to many. The twins grew to become respected leaders, with Baraka establishing a school of healing arts and Imani becoming known for her wisdom in resolving conflicts between villages. The connection between Makazi and Nyota grew strong, with knowledge, resources, and celebration flowing freely between them. And the Stone of Destiny continued its silent watch, reminding all who came before it that the purest request is one that creates not just personal joy but ripples of blessing that extend far beyond a single life or a single village, a truth as enduring as the stone itself. In the years that followed, many came to both stones with their heartfelt wishes, some granted, others not. But those who studied the story of Zuri and her twins understood the deeper truth. That the stone's greatest power lay not in granting wishes but in revealing the power already present in the pure heart that asked. What you seek, Zuri would tell those who came, may not be what you need. But what you need, if your heart is true, will always find its way to you. And in this wisdom, passed down through generations alongside the story of the Stone of Destiny, the people found a guide for living that brought prosperity even in times when the stone itself seemed silent. For they had learned that the true magic never resided in the stone alone, but in the purity of intention with which they approached life itself.